The complete works of Swami Vivekananda, Volume 1, Section 3, Rajyog. Preface to Rajyog. Since the dawn of history, various extraordinary phenomena have been recorded as happening among human beings. Witnesses are not wanting in modern times to attest to the fact of such event, even in the societies living under the full blaze of modern science. The vast mass of such evidence is unreliable, as coming from ignorance, superstition, and fraudulent persons. In many instances, the so called miracles are imitations. But what do they imitate? It is not the sign of a candid and scientific mind to throw overboard anything without proper investigation. Surface scientists, unable to explain the various extraordinary mental phenomena, strive to ignore their very existence. They are therefore more culpable than those who think that their prayers are answered by a bin or bins above the clouds, or than those who believe that their petitions will make such beings change the course of universe. The latter have the execute of ignorance, or at least of a defective system of education, which has taught them in dependence upon such being, a dependence which has become a part of their degenerate nature. The former have no such excuse. For thousands of years, such phenomena have been studied, investigated, and generalized. The whole ground of the religious faculty of men has been analyzed, and the practical result is the science of Raja Yoga. The Raja Yoga does not, after the unpardonable manner of some modern scientists, deny the existence of facts which are difficult to explain. On the other hand, it gently and in no unnecessary terms tells the superstitious that miracles and the answers to prayer and powers of faith through though true as fact are not rendered comprehensible through the superstitious explanation of attribution, attributing them to the agency of a being or beings above the clouds. It declares that each man is only a conduit for the infinite ocean of knowledge and power that lies behind mankind. It teaches that desires and wants are in men, and that the power of supply is also in men, and what and that wherever and whenever it desires, a desire, a want, a prayer has been fulfilled, it was out of this infinite magazine that the supply came, and not from the supernatural being. The idea of supernatural being may rose to a certain extent the power of action in man, but it also brings spiritual decay. It brings dependence, it brings fear, it brings superstition. It generates into the horrible belief in the natural weakness of men. There is no supernatural, natural weak, says the yogi. But there are in nature gross manifestation and subtle manifestation. The subtle are the causes and the gross are the effects. The gross can be easy perceived by the senses, not so the subtle. The practice of Raja Yoga will lead to the acquisition of the more subtle perception. All the orthodox system of the Indian philosophy have one goal in view: the liberation of the soul through perfection. The method is by yoga. The word yoga covers an immense ground, but both the Sankhya and Vedanta school point to yoga in some form or other. The subject of the present book is that from form of yoga known as Raj Yoga. The aphorism of Patanjali are the highest authority on Raj Yoga and form its textbook. The other philosophers, though occasionally differing from Patanjali in some philosophical points, have as a rule acceded to his method of practice or decided contest. The first part of this book comprises several lectures to classes delivered by the present writer in New York. The second part is rather free translation of the aphorism of Patanjali with the running commentary. Effort has been made to avoid technicality as far as possible and to keep to the free and easy style of conversation. In the first part, some simple and specific directions are given for the students who want to practice, but all such are especially and honestly reminded that, with few exceptions, yoga can only be safely learned by direct contact with a teacher. If this conversation succeed in awakening a desire for further information on subject, the teacher will not be wanting. The system of Patanjali is based upon the system of the Sankhya. The points of difference being very few. The two most important differences are: first, the Patanjali admits a personal God in form of the first teacher, while while the only God the Sankhya admit is the nearly perfect being, temporarily in charge of a cycle of creation. And second, the yogis hold the mind to be equally all pervading with his soul or purush, and the Sankhya do not. Each soul is potentially divine. Each soul is potentially divine. The goal is to manifest this divinity within by controlling nature, external and internal. The goal is to manifest this divinity within by controlling nature, external and internal. Do this either by work or worship or by psychic control or by philosophy. Do this either by work or worship or psychic control or philosophy, by one or more, or all of this, by one or more, or all of this, and be free, and be free. This is the whole of religion. Doctrines or dogmas or rituals or book or temples or forms are but secondary details. Chapter 1: Introduction. All our knowledge is based upon experience. What we call inferential knowledge, in which we go from the less to the more general, or from general to a particular, has experiences as its base. In what are called as exact science, people easily find the truth because it appeals to the particular experience of every human being. The scientist does not tell you to believe in anything, but he has certain results which come from his own experiences and reasoning on them when he asks us to believe in his conclusions. He appeals to some universal experiences of the humanity. In every exact science, there is a basis which is common to all humanity, so that we can at once see the truth or fallacy of the conclusions drawn therefrom. Now, the question is: has religion any such basis or not? I shall have to answer the question both in the affirmative and in negative. Religion as it is generally thought all over the world, is said to be based upon the faith and belief, and in most cases consists only of different set of theories, and that is the reason why we find all religion quarreling with one another. These theories again are based upon belief. One man says there is a great being sitting above the clouds and governing the whole universe, and he asks me to believe that solely on the authority of his assertion. In the same way, I may have my own ideas, which I am asking others to believe. And if they ask a reason, I cannot give them any. This is why religion and metaphysical philosophy have a bad name nowadays. Every educated man seems to say, oh, this religion are only bundles of theories without any standard of them to judge them by, each man preaching his own pet ideas. Nevertheless, there is a basis of universe belief in religion, governing all the different theories and all the various ideas of different sects in different countries. Going to their basis, we find that they also are based upon universal experiences. In the first place, if you analyze all the various religions of the world, you will find that these are divided into two classes, those with the books and those without the books. Those with the books are strongest and have the largest number of followers. Those without books have mostly died out, and a few new ones have very small following. Yet, in all of them, we find one consensus of the opinion that the truths they teach are the result of the experience of particular person. The Christian asks you to believe in his religion, to believe in Christ, and to believe in him as the incarnation of God. To believe in a God, in a soul, and in a better state of soul. If I ask him for reason, he says he believes in them. But if you go to the fountainhead of Christianity, you will find that it is based upon experience. Christ said he saw God. The disciples said they felt God, and forth on. Similarly, a Buddhism, it's Buddha's experience. He experienced certain truths, saw them, come in contact with them, and preached them to the world. So with the Hindus, in their books, the writers who are called as rishis or sages declare they experienced certain truths and they preach them. This is clear. This is thus it is clear that all religions of the world have been built upon one universal and adamantine foundation of all our knowledge, direct experience. The teachers all saw God. They all saw their own soul. They saw their future. They saw their eternity. And what they saw, they preached. Only there is this difference that by most of this religion, especially in the modern times, a peculiar claim is made, namely that these experiences are impossible at present days. They were only possible with the few men who were the first founder of the religion and subsequently bore their name. At the present time, these experiences have become obsolete, obsolete, and therefore we have now to take religion on belief. This I entirely deny. If there has been one experience in this world in any peculiar branch of knowledge, it absolutely follows that experience that experience has been possibly millions of times before and will be repeated eternally. Uniformity is a rigorous law of nature, and what once happened can happen again or always. The teachers of the science of yoga therefore declared that religion is not based upon the experiences of ancient time, but that no man can be religious until he has the same perception himself. Yoga is a science which teaches us how to get this perception. It is not much use to talk about religion until one has felt it. Why is there use to talk about religion until why? Everyone has felt it. Why is there so much disturbance, so much fight and quarrel in the name of God? There has been more bloodshed in the name of God than for any other causes. Because people never went to the fountainhead. They were content only to give the mental assent or to the customs of their forefathers and wanted others to do the same. What right has a man to say he has a soul if he does not feel it, or that there is God if he does not see it? If there is God, we must see him. If there is soul, we must perceive it. Otherwise, it is better not to believe. It is better to be an outspoken atheist than a hypocrite. The modern idea, on one hand, with the learner is that religion and metaphysics and all search after a supreme being of are futile. On the other hand, with the semi-educated, the idea seems to be that these things really have no basis. Their only values consist in the fact that they furnish strong motive powers for doing good to the world. If men believe in God, they may become good and moral, and so make good citizens. We cannot blame them for holding such ideas, saying that all the teachings these men get is simply to believe in the eternal rigmarole of the worlds, without any substance behind them. They are asked to live upon words. Can they do it? If they could, I should not have the least regard for human nature. Man wants truth, wants to experience truth for himself. When he has grasped it, realized it, felt it within his heart to heart, then alone declares the Vedas. Would all doubts vanish, all darkness be scattered, and all crookedness be made straight? Yet you children of immortality, even those who live in the highest sphere, the way is found. There is the way out of all this darkness, and that is by perceiving Him who is beyond all darkness. There is no other way. The science of Raja Yoga proposes to put before humanity a practical and scientific workout methods of reaching this truth. In the first place, every science must have its own method of investigation. If you want to become an astronomer and sit down and cry, astronomy, astronomy, it will never come to you. The same with chemistry. A certain method must be followed. You must go to a laboratory, take different substances, mix them up, compound them, experiment on them, and out of that will come a knowledge of chemistry. If you want to be an astronomer, you must go to the observatory, take the telescope, study the stars, planets, and then only you can become an astronomer. Each science must have its own methods. I could preach you thousands of sermons, but they could not make you religious until you practice the method. These are the truths of the sages of all countries, of all ages, of men pure and unselfish, who had no motive but to do good to the world. They all declare that they have found some truth higher than what the senses can bring to us, and they invite verification. They ask us to take up the methods and practice honestly, and then, if we do not find this higher truth, we will have the right to say that there is no truth in the claim. But before we have done that, we are not rational in denying the truth of their assertion. So, we must work faithfully using the prescribed method, and the light will come. In acquiring knowledge, we make a use of generalization, and generalization is based upon observation. We first observe fact, then generalize, and then draw the conclusion or principles. The knowledge of the mind, of the eternal nature of man, of thought, can never be had until we have first the power of observing the fact that are going on within. It is comparatively easy to observe facts in the external world. For many instruments have been invented for this purpose, but in the internal world, we have no instrument to help us. At you, at we know we must observe in order to have a real science. Without a proper analysis, any science will be hopeless, mere theorism. And that is why all the psychologists have been quarreling among themselves since the beginning of time, except those few who found out the means of observation. The science of Raja Yoga, in the first place, proposes to give us such a means of observing the internal science states, the instrument in the mind itself, the power of attention. When properly guided, the directed towards the internal world, will analyze the mind and illumine facts for us. The power of mind are like rays of light dissipated when they are concentrated. They illumine. This is our only means of knowledge. Everyone is using it both in the external and in the internal world. But for the psychologist, the same minute observation has to be directed to the internal world, which the scientific man directs to the external, and this requires a great deal of practice. From our childhood upward upwards, we have been taught only to pay attention to things external, but never to think internal. Hence, most of us have certainly lost the faculty of observing the internal mechanism. To turn the mind as it were inside, stop it from going outside, and then to concentrate all its powers and throw them upon the mind itself, in order that it may know its own nature, analyze itself, and is very hard work. Yet, that is the only way to anything which will be a scientific approach to the subject. What is the use of such knowledge in the first place? Knowledge itself is the highest reward of knowledge, and secondly, there is also utility in it. It will take away all our miseries when, by analyzing his own mind, man face to face, as it were, with something which is never destroyed, something which is by its own nature eternally pure and perfect. He will no more be miserable, no more unhappy. All miseries come from fear, from unsatisfied desires. Man will find that he never dies, and then he will have no more fear for death. When he knows that he is perfect, he will have no more vain desires, and both these causes being absent, there will be no more misery. There will be perfect bliss even while in this body. There is only one method by which to attain this knowledge, that which is concentration. The chemistry in the chemist in his laboratory concentrates all the energies of his mind into one focus and throws them upon the materials he is analyzing, and so finds out their secrets. The astronomer concentrates all the energies of his mind and projects them through the telescope. Up in the skies, the stars, sun, moon give up their secrets to him. The more I can concentrate my thoughts on the matter on which I am taking or talking to you, the more light I can throw upon it. You are listening to me, and the more you concentrate your thoughts, the more clearly you will grasp what I have to say. How has all the knowledge in the world been gained by gained but by the concentration of the power of mind? The world is ready to give up its secret if we only know how to knock, how to give it the necessary blow. The strength and the force of the blow come through concentration. There is no limit to the power of human mind. The more concentration it has, the more power is brought to bear on one point. That is the secret. It is easy to concentrate the mind on the external things. The mind naturally goes outward. But not so in the case of religion or psychology or metaphysics, where the subject and the object are one. The object is internal. The mind itself is the object, and it is necessary to study the mind itself. Mind studying mind. We know that there is the power of mind called as reflection. I am talking to you. At the same time, I am standing aside, as it is very a second person and knowing and hearing what I am talking. You work and think at the same time, while a portion is of your mind stands by and sees what you are thinking. The power of mind should be concentrated and turned back upon itself, and as the darkest place reveals their secret before their penetrating rays of the sun, so will this concentrated mind penetrates its own innermost secret. Thus will we come to the basis of the belief, the real genius religion. We will perceive for some ourselves whether we have soul, whether life is of 5 minutes or of eternity, whether there is God in the universe or more. It will all be revealed to us. This is what Raja Yoga proposes to teach. The goal of all its teaching is how to concentrate the mind, then how to discover the innermost recesses of our own minds, then how to generalize their contents and form our own conclusions from them. It therefore never asks the question what our religion is, whether we are deist or atheist, whether Christian, Jews, or Buddhists, we are humans. That is sufficient. Every human being has the right and power to seek for religion. Every human being has the right to ask the religion why and to have his question answered by himself if he only takes the trouble. So far, then we see that the study of Raja Yoga on no faith or no belief is necessary. Believe nothing until you find it out for yourself. That is what it teaches us. Truth requires no prop to make it stand. Do you mean do you mean to say that the fact of our awakened state requires any dreams and imagining to prove them? Certainly not. This study of Raja Yoga has a long time and a constant practice. A part of this practice is physical, but the main is mental. As we proceed, we shall find out how intimately the mind is connected with the body. If we believe that the mind is simply a finer part of the body and that mind acts upon the body when it stands to reason that the body must react upon the mind. If the body is sick, the mind becomes sick also. If the body is healthy, the mind remains healthy and strong. When one is angry, the mind becomes disturbed. Similarly, when the mind is disturbed, the body also becomes disturbed. With the majority of mankind, the mind is greatly under the control of body, and their mind being with very little developed. The vast mass of humanity is very little removed from the animals. Not only so, but in many instances, the power of control in them is little higher than that of the lower animals. We have very little command of on our mind. Therefore, to bring the command about, to get that control over body and mind, we must take certain physical help. When a body is sufficiently controlled, we can attempt the manipulation of the mind. By manipulating the mind, we shall be able to bring it under our control, make it work as we like and compile it to concentrate its power as we desire. According to Raja Yoga, the external world is but the gross form of the internal or subtle. The finer is always the cause and the gross the effect. So, the external world is the effect and the internal world is the cause. In the same way, the external force are simply the grosser parts of which the internal forces are the finer. The man who has discovered and learned how to manipulate the internal forces will get the whole of the nature under his control. The yogi proposes to himself no less a task than to the master the whole universe to control the whole of the nature. He wants to arrive at the point where what we call nature's law and will have no influence over him. There he where he will be able to get beyond them all. We will be master. He will be master on the whole of nature, internal and external. The progress and civilization of the human race simply means controlling this nature. Different races takes the different processes of controlling nature. Just as in the same society, some individuals want to control the external nature and others internal. So among races, some want to control the external nature and other the internal. Some say that by controlling internal nature, we control everything. Others that by controlling external nature, we can control everything. Carried to the extreme, both are right because in nature, there is no such division as internal and external. These are the fictitious limitations that never existed. The externalist and the internalist are designed to meet at the same point when both reach the extreme of their knowledge, just as a psychic, when he pushes his knowledge to its limits, finds its melting way away into the metaphysics, so a metaphysician will find that what he calls mind and matter are but apparently distinctions, the reality being one. The end and the aim of all sciences is to find the unity, the one out of which the manifold is being manufactured, that one existence has many. Raj Yoga proposes to start from the internal world, to study internal nature and through that control the whole, both internal and external. It is very good attempt, very good and old attempt. India has been its special stronghold, but it was also attempted by the other nations. In the Western countries, it was regarded as mystical, and people who wanted to practice it were ever burnt or killed as witches and sorcerers. In India, for various reasons, it fell into the hand of the person who destroyed 90% of the knowledge and tried to make a great secret of reminders. In modern times, many so called teachers have arisen in the West was than those of India because the latter knew something while this modern exponent knows nothing. Anything that is secret and mysterious is in this system of yoga should be at once rejected. The best guide is life is strength. In religion, as in all other matters, discard everything that weakens you. Have nothing to do with it. Misery mongering weakens the human brain. It has well nigh destroyed yoga, one of the grandest of the sciences. From the time it was discovered more than 4,000 years ago, yoga was perfectly delineated, formulated, and preached in India. It is a striking fact that the more modern the commentator, the greater the mistake he makes, while the more ancient the writers, the more rational he is. Most of the modern writers talk of all sort of mysteries. Thus, yoga fell into the hands of the few person who made it secret instead of letting the full blaze of daylight and reason fall upon it. They did so that they might have the power to themselves. In the first place, there is no mystery in what I teach. What little I know, I will tell you. So far as I can reason it out, I will do so. But as to what I do not know, I will simply tell you what the book says. It is wrong to believe blindly. You must exercise your own reason and judgment. You must practice and see whether these things happen or not. Just as you would take up any other science exactly in the same manner, you should take up this science for study. There is neither mystery nor danger in it. So far as it is true, it ought to be preached in the public streets in broad daylights. Any attempt to mystify this thing in the is productive of great danger. Before proceeding further, I will tell you a little of Sankhya philosophy upon which the whole Raja Yoga is based on. According to the Sankhya philosophy, the genesis of perception is as follows. The affection of external object are carried by the outer instrument to their respective brain centers or organs. The organs carry the affection to the mind and mind to the determinative faculty. From this, the Purush, that is the soul, receives them when the perception results. Next, he gives the order back as we were to the motor center to do the needful. With the exception of the Purush, all of these are material, but the mind in much finer matter than the external instrument. That material of which the mind is composed goes also to form the subtile matter and the tan, tanmatras. And the tanmatras are formed. This becomes gross and makes external matters. That is the psychology of the Sankhya. So that between the intact intellect and the gross matter outside, there is only a difference in degree. The Purush is the only thing which is immaterial. The mind is an instrument, as it were, in the hands of the soul, through which the soul catches the external objects. The mind is constantly changing and vacillating, and can, when perfected, either attach itself to several organs, one or to none. For instance, if I hear the clock with great attention, I will not perhaps see anything, although my eyes may be open, showing that the mind was not attached to seeing organs, while it was to the hearing organ. But the perfected mind can be attached to all organs simultaneously. It has the reflexive power of looking back into its own depth. This reflexing this reflexive power is what the yogi want to attain by concentrating the power of the mind and turning them inward. He seeks to know what is happening inside. There is in this no question of mere belief. It is the analysis arrived at by certain philosophers. Physiologists Modern physiologist tells us that the eyes are not the organs of the vision, but that the organ is in one of the nerve centers of the brain. And so, with all the senses, they also tell us that these centers are formed of same material as that of the brain itself. The Sankhya also tells us the same thing. The former is a statement on the physical side, and the later is on psychological side. Yet, both are the same. Our field of research lies beyond this. The yogi proposes to attain that fine state of perception is much in which he can perceive all the different mental states. There must be mental perception of all of them. One can perceive how the sensation is traveling, how the mind is receiving it, and how it is going to the determinative faculty, and how this gives it to the purush. As each science requires certain preparation and has its own methods which must be followed before it could be understood, even so in Raj Yoga. Certain regulation as to food are necessary. We must use the food which brings us the purest mind. If you go into the manageria, we will find the demonstration at once. You see the elephants, how huge animals, but calm and gentle. And if you go towards the cage of lion and tiger, you find them restless, showing how much difference has been made by the food. All the forces that are working in the body have to be produced out of food, and we see that every day. If you begin to fast, first your body will be get wet. Sorry, first your body will get weak. The physical forces will suffer, and then after the few days, the mental forces will suffer also. First, memory will fail. Then comes a point when you are not able to think, much less to pursue any course of reasoning. We have therefore to take care what sort of food we eat at the beginning, and when we have got strength enough, when our practice is well advanced, we need not to be we need not be so careful in this respect. While the plant is growing, it must be hedged around, lest it be injured. But when it becomes a tree, the hedges are taken away. It is strong enough to withstand all assaults. A yogi must avoid the extremes of luxury and austerity. He must not fast nor torture his flesh. He who does so, says the Gita, cannot be an yogi. He who fasts, he who keeps awake, he who sleeps too much, he who works too much, he who does not work at all, none of these can be yogi.